Sit back and enjoy an hour of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. One of the largest animals that ever flew was the Quetzalcoatlus. It was a pterosaur as tall as a giraffe, had a wingspan of 33 feet, and could fly for 9,942 miles without stopping. It is believed that it took off using all four of its limbs and that it lived in coastal areas, feeding on small land animals rather than fish like other pterosaurs. There is a company called Hoxton Street Monster Supplies that sells salt made from real human tears. There are 4 types, harvested from different moments: sneezing, chopping onions, laughter, and anger. You can taste the emotion. In reality, it is part of a creative project linked to an educational organization that raises funds to support writing programs for children and young people. High atmospheric pressure affects the bubbles in your coffee. Therefore, if the bubbles are closer to the center, you can expect rain or other stormy weather. This phenomenon is related to changes in the liquid's surface tension, which reacts to variations in air pressure before visible changes in the weather occur. There is a cryptid believed to inhabit the Gobi Desert called the Mongolian deathworm. It can grow up to 4.9 feet long and kills its prey with electric shocks from its eyes. The creature has been part of local folklore for generations, and although several expeditions have attempted to find evidence, its existence has never been scientifically proven. During the late 1800s, a baboon named Jack was employed by the railway in Cape Town, South Africa as a signalman. He never made a single mistake and worked for the railway until his death. He was trained by his owner, a railway worker, and even learned to operate levers correctly under supervision, which earned him a small salary and daily rations. The United States possesses one of the most powerful aircraft carrier fleets on the planet, with a number that far exceeds that of the rest of the world combined. These giants of the sea function as mobile air bases capable of projecting military power in any ocean, which explains why the country maintains such a significant advantage in this type of vessel compared to other nations. In Japan, Nestle has introduced more than 200 different flavors of Kit Kat since 2000, including ginger ale, soy sauce, creme brulee, green tea, and banana. This variety is partly due to a strategy of limited editions and adaptation to local tastes, which has turned the product into a popular souvenir among tourists. I need to go to Japan. In Finland, there is an annual competition called Kanto, where men compete by carrying their wives through an obstacle course. The winner receives their wife's weight in beer. This event has specific rules about how to carry the partner and attracts international participants every year. Only 3 humans have died outside Earth's atmosphere. They were all traveling on the Soyuz 11 mission, which visited the world's first space station, Salyut 1. During the return, the capsule suffered an unexpected depressurization. After this incident, new safety measures were implemented to better protect astronauts on future missions. Cold showers are actually healthier than hot ones. Among other benefits, they improve immunity and circulation and relieve stress and depression. They can also help reduce inflammation and support muscle recovery, which is why they are popular among athletes and people who regularly engage in physical activity. There is a hybrid of a knife and a fork called a nork. Great idea, not such a great name. This utensil combines serrated edges with prongs, allowing you to cut and spear food with one hand, making it practical in certain informal situations. In 2014, a homeowner in England accidentally left a guest bedroom window open for 3 months. This allowed about 5,000 wasps to get in and build a massive nest in the bed. The wasps chewed through about 8 inches of mattress and pillows, but pest control at least managed to save the blanket. Damn hungry wasps. Babies are actually able to give a thumbs up in the womb. Seriously, you know you are going to have a cool kid when they do that. This type of movement can be observed through ultrasounds and is part of normal motor coordination development before birth, and some fetuses also suck their thumbs. Bamboo is the fastest growing plant in the world. It can grow up to 36 inches in a single day. Some species reach this speed under ideal conditions, which makes it a widely used resource due to its rapid renewal and sustainability. There is a place in California called Glass Beach, where years of people dumping trash along a stretch of coastline have led to the development of smooth sea glass. Believe it or not, tourists in the area like to collect the glass, so now a movement has emerged to replenish the beach with discarded glass. Around 70% of the world's spice production comes from a single country, India. This country cultivates a huge variety that includes pepper, turmeric, cardamom, and cloves, many of them with highly valued designations of origin. In addition, India not only leads in production, but also in domestic consumption, as spices are essential in its traditional cuisine and have been part of its trade history for centuries. According to a study conducted in 2012, people who complain live longer, by about 2 years. This is because by complaining, they release their tension, which increases their immunity and improves their health. It is hot in here. I am tired and I need a drink. Oh, I have one right here. The Luna moth does not have a mouth, so it does not eat. It only lives for about a week, and its only purpose is to mate. During its adult stage, it survives on the energy it stored as a caterpillar and uses pheromones to attract a mate over long distances at night. Its short life is an example of a biological strategy focused entirely on reproduction. A man pretended to have a mental illness to get out of prison because he thought living in a psychiatric hospital would be better. However, once he arrived at the asylum, he tried to leave, but the doctors diagnosed him as a sociopath. This was because pretending to have a mental illness to escape prison is exactly the kind of manipulative behavior expected from a sociopath. Pablo Escobar collected exotic animals for his personal zoo. When his estate was raided, his hippos were released into the wild, and now Colombia has the largest population of hippos outside of Africa. These animals adapted to the local ecosystem and began to reproduce without natural predators, which has raised environmental concerns due to their impact on rivers and native species. Sylvan Goldman, the inventor of shopping carts, had to hire models to push the carts in his store to make them more appealing to customers when they were first introduced. At first, many shoppers resisted using them because they associated them with wheelchairs or awkward baskets. But after seeing people use them naturally, the idea gained acceptance and ended up becoming an essential element in supermarkets around the world. Vikings never wore horned helmets. The only helmet discovered from Viking heritage shows a rounded iron cap and no horns at all. The image of horned helmets became popular much later, especially in the 19th century, through artistic representations in operas that aimed to make them look more imposing. In reality, that type of decoration would have been impractical in combat and has no archaeological support. Lobsters have a really strange anatomy. Their brains are in their throats, their nervous systems in their abdomens, their teeth in their stomachs, and their kidneys in their heads. Try to figure that out. It is like a glitch in nature. These adaptations allow them to process tough food and survive in demanding marine environments. Coca-Cola has produced more than 3,500 different types of beverages. That means if you drank one per day, it would take you more than 9 years to try them all. This wide variety includes soft drinks, juices, water, energy drinks, and teas, adapted to different markets around the world, where the company adjusts flavors and products according to the cultural preferences of each region. A man named Paz snuck into Paris Hilton's 30th birthday party and stole her $3,200 birthday cake when he realized that no one there was going to eat it. He ended up dividing the cake into 125 pieces and serving them to homeless people. Istanbul has an estimated 150,000 stray dogs. A company called Pugidon has created a vending machine where food and water can be dispensed for dogs when people recycle their plastic bottles. This system encourages recycling while also helping take care of urban animals. Monopoly was originally invented in 1903 to expose the injustice of a social system where a small minority exploits the majority of tenants. Its creator, Elizabeth McGee, designed it as a critique of land hoarding and abusive rents, although over time its original purpose faded as it became a mass commercial game. Alexander Solonik was a Russian criminal known as Superkiller, who was attributed with numerous attacks against members of the mafia before becoming part of that same world. Years after forming his own organization, he died under violent circumstances. Domestic animals are much smarter than you might imagine. In fact, some pets pretend to be sick just to get special attention from their owners. This behavior is associated with their ability to learn and observe, as they can recognize which actions trigger emotional responses in humans. Because he did not like signing autographs, Marlon Brando's personal checks became collector's items. People often did not cash Brando's checks because his signature was worth more than the amount written on the check. An Australian man named Don Ritchie lived across from a very well-known cliff in Australia called the Gap. For more than 50 years, whenever he saw someone going through a very difficult moment, he would calmly approach them, start a conversation, and offer to stay with them, even inviting them to his home for tea. Thanks to his kindness and attentiveness, he managed to help many people feel better and change their decision. Naturally, purple eyes do exist. This is attributed to a condition called Alexandria's genesis, which causes pale skin and purple-colored eyes. Eyes can appear violet in very rare cases due to the mix of blue and red tones in light or certain medical conditions. Edward Jones, or Boy Jones, was known in the Victorian era for being caught breaking into Buckingham Palace at 14 years old and stealing Queen Victoria's underwear. What a pervert. His intrusions happened on multiple occasions, which raised concerns about palace security and made him a widely discussed figure in the press of the time. In 2011, one-third of all divorce filings recorded in the United States contained the word Facebook. Divorce lawyers say that the use of social media in divorce proceedings and child custody battles has been increasing. The portrait of the Queen of England has appeared on enough international currency to create a progressive timeline of her aging. Throughout her reign, her image appeared on coins and banknotes from numerous Commonwealth countries, showing different stages of her life as the decades passed. It is completely possible to see the Milky Way, but light pollution has made it a rare occurrence. In fact, in the 1990s, there was a massive blackout in California, and residents of Los Angeles began to worry about the strange clouds they saw above their heads. It turned out they were seeing the Milky Way for the first time. In 2014, Japanese designer Akihiro Mizuuchi created edible chocolate Legos that were actually functional. He even printed the Lego logo on each block, for those of us who want to be creative and obese. In the first quarter of 2014, Apple generated such enormous revenue that it surpassed that of Google, Amazon, and Facebook combined during that same period. This fact illustrates the level of dominance it reached at the time, driven mainly by the success of the iPhone, becoming one of the clearest examples of the economic power of big tech companies. Elephants remember and mourn their loved ones like we do, sometimes years after their death. Behaviors have been observed where they return to the remains of other elephants, touching the bones with their trunks and remaining in silence, suggesting a complex emotional and social life. Hans Zimmer, the composer of music for more than 150 films, has never had any formal musical education. Despite this, he developed his talent in a self-taught way and became one of the most influential composers in modern cinema. His style combines traditional instruments with digital technology, creating memorable soundtracks for major productions that have impacted generations of audiences. Tashirojima is an island in Japan that is also known as Cat Island. The population of stray cats there is greater than the human population. Cats are considered symbols of good luck by the residents, and their presence has helped attract tourists, becoming a distinctive feature of the place. New York City has the area code 212 because, at the time, rotary phones were used, and the number has the shortest dialing time. This was because combinations with lower digits were faster to dial, so they were assigned to cities with high call volume. Other major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago received similar codes, optimizing efficiency in an era where every second in dialing had an impact on telephone networks. In the Middle Ages, doctors believed that passing gas into jars and smelling it would prevent death, or more specifically, the plague known as the Black Death, which they called therapeutic stench. How disgusting. This idea was related to the miasma theory, which held that diseases were transmitted by bad smells, so it was thought that other strong odors could counteract them. Surprisingly, the human brain, the universe, and the internet have similar network patterns and the same growth dynamics. That is really cool. Studies have compared the structure of neural connections with the distribution of galaxies and digital network links, finding similarities in how they are organized and expand. Although they function on completely different scales, these coincidences have sparked great interest in science in understanding common principles of complex organization. The Burj Al Arab in Dubai is the only 7-star hotel in the world. However, the hotel management never uses this term to describe itself. The notion was introduced by a British journalist who described the Burj Al Arab as something beyond anything she had ever seen and called it a 7-star hotel. The last words of Marie Antoinette were, "Sir, I ask your pardon." She was apologizing to her executioner after accidentally stepping on his foot on her way to the guillotine. This gesture was interpreted by many as a sign of courtesy even in her final moments during the French Revolution. Her execution took place in 1793 in Paris, marking one of the most symbolic episodes of the end of the French monarchy. Scientists have begun to argue that we may actually have more than 5 basic senses, including magnetoreception, the ability to detect magnetic fields, and chronoreception, the sense of the passage of time. Others have also been proposed, such as proprioception, which allows us to perceive body position, and interoception, related to internal signals like hunger or heart rate. There is a fish called blue cod that has blue flesh. When it is cooked, the blue color disappears completely. It is an alien fish. This happens because the pigments responsible for the color break down with heat, changing its appearance to a more common color. This type of phenomenon is also seen in other foods where temperature alters the chemical properties of the compounds responsible for color. In 1992, the CEOs of Southwest Airlines and Stevens Aviation settled a dispute over who could use the slogan "Plain Smart" with an arm wrestling match instead of dealing with a long and tedious legal battle. I feel like that should happen more often. A good old-fashioned arm wrestling match. The most important organisms in the world are marine algae because they produce between 70 and 80% of our oxygen. In reality, much of that oxygen comes from phytoplankton, a group of photosynthetic microorganisms that live in the oceans and also play a key role in regulating the climate by absorbing carbon dioxide. Their balance is essential for life on the planet. Instead of its gross domestic product, Bhutan measures its development and prosperity by its gross national happiness. It has been doing so since 1971 and is the only country that does it. This approach considers factors such as psychological well-being, culture, the environment, and quality of life, seeking a balance between economic growth and the happiness of the population rather than focusing solely on financial indicators. The Kumbuk River Resort in Sri Lanka is a hotel shaped like a giant elephant. Guess where the entrance is? This curious structure was built mainly with natural materials, such as wood and straw, and it became famous for its striking design in the middle of the jungle, offering visitors an unusual experience very close to nature and local wildlife. While filming Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, Tom Cruise vandalized the tallest building in the world. He climbed to the top of the Burj Khalifa and wrote the name of his then-wife, Katie Holmes, on the spire. How awkward that is now. In reality, the scene was part of a controlled filming with strict safety measures and no real damage to the building. The original release date of Halo 2 for PC was delayed because Microsoft discovered that one of the developers had hidden a photo of his butt in the game. This type of hidden content, known as an Easter egg, caused internal controversy and forced a review of the material before its official release. At the age of 15, Anne Makasinski managed to invent a flashlight that works solely on the body heat of the hand. She later created a headlamp that also runs on body heat. Her invention uses thermoelectric modules that convert the temperature difference between the skin and the air into energy, a solution designed especially for communities without reliable access to electricity. The Ben Franklin effect is a psychological phenomenon in which someone who has done a favor for another person is more likely to do another favor for that person than if they had received a favor from them. This behavior is explained because people tend to justify their actions by aligning their attitudes with what they have already done, reinforcing a positive perception toward the person they helped. The name comes from Benjamin Franklin, who described this strategy in his writings. The highest flying bird in the world is the Ruppel's vulture. There is confirmed evidence of one flying at an altitude of 37,073 feet above sea level, during which it collided with an airplane. This record was obtained in 1973, when the bird was found in an engine after the impact, demonstrating its incredible ability to withstand extremely low oxygen levels and very cold temperatures at altitudes close to those of commercial aircraft cruising levels. In Queens, New York, in 2010, a 12-year-old girl named Alexa Gonzalez was arrested, handcuffed, and held in a police precinct for several hours just for doodling on her desk. Yes, that is a bit strict. During job interviews, Google does not ask for grade point averages or test scores from candidates because they do not correlate at all with success at the company. Over time, the company has prioritized skills such as problem solving, critical thinking, and adaptability, considering that these factors better predict performance in dynamic environments than traditional academic results. The Carrot House in Warsaw is the narrowest house in the world, measuring only 36 inches at its narrowest point and 60 inches at its widest. It was designed as a habitable art installation and is inserted between two buildings, making use of an almost impossible space. Despite its size, it has the essentials for living, distributed across very compact levels. In 2008, as part of a fundraising effort, Father Adelir de Carli from Brazil tied 1,000 balloons to a chair in an attempt to break the world record for the longest time flying with balloons. Unfortunately, winds pushed him off course and he lost contact with land. Sadly, he was found dead at sea weeks later. Electronic Arts hired people to pose as Christians to accuse the company of being the Antichrist because of the video game Dante's Inferno as a marketing strategy, and it was incredibly successful. The campaign generated controversy and media attention as it simulated protests to provoke public debate, showing how some advertising strategies can take advantage of controversy to increase the visibility of a release. Knowledge of silk production was for a long time one of the best-kept secrets in China. Protected for more than 3,000 years, it was so valuable that there were severe penalties for those who revealed it, which helped maintain exclusive control of this technique for centuries. White Coke is a clear version of Coca-Cola, commissioned by Soviet Marshal Georgy Zhukov in the 1940s. He requested it because he was a fan of Coca-Cola, but did not want to be seen drinking it in public, so he asked for it to look like vodka instead. Yes, because it is much better to drink vodka in public than Coca-Cola. Do not even think about drinking Coca-Cola in Russia. But vodka, that is fun for the whole family. Route 50 in the United States is also known as the loneliest road in America due to the vast, desolate areas the road passes through. This nickname became popular in the 1980s after an article warned about its long stretches without services. It crosses several states, including deserts and mountains, offering remote and little-traveled landscapes. In 1888, a pigeon breeder and a beekeeper challenged each other's creatures to a 3.5-mile race in Germany. The bee won by 25 seconds. This unusual event was recorded in the press of the time and is often cited as an example of the surprising speed and navigation abilities some insects can achieve. A teenager in Taiwan died after playing the video game Diablo 3 for 40 hours straight without eating. The case was reported as an extreme example of physical exhaustion, where the lack of rest, hydration, and food can have serious consequences. Situations like this have led to discussions about the risks of prolonged gaming sessions and the importance of maintaining healthy habits even during digital leisure. There is a competition called the World's Biggest Liar that is held annually in England. Competitors from all over the world have 5 minutes to tell the biggest and most convincing lie they can come up with. Believe it or not, politicians and lawyers are banned from participating because it is believed they are too good at lying. Mike Tyson had been arrested no fewer than 38 times by the time he was 13 years old. He was sent to a home for boys where he discovered he could box and began training professionally with a former boxer. The rest is history. There are approximately 10 quintillion insects on our planet. That is a 10 followed by 18 zeros, roughly 200 million insects per human. This enormous number reflects their ability to adapt and reproduce, as they inhabit almost every ecosystem on the planet and play key roles such as pollination and the decomposition of organic matter. The Dead Sea has an unusually high salt concentration, with about 8 or 9 times more salt than natural seawater. This means that people can float easily in the Dead Sea due to its natural buoyancy, although I would not recommend trying it because it is somewhat unsettling. Mozart had a dirty mind. He once composed a piece in B-flat major called Leck mich im Arsch, which literally translates as "lick my butt." Although Wikipedia is seen as a massive and open project, much of its content has historically been driven by a relatively small group of very active editors. Various studies have pointed out that a minority accounts for a large portion of the edits, which influences which topics are developed the most. Even so, the platform has millions of articles in hundreds of languages and maintains systems of review, discussion, and constant monitoring to improve accuracy and detect errors or vandalism. Every day, Facebook users share such a massive number of photos that it is hard to imagine. Hundreds of millions of moments captured in just 24 hours. Over the years, this has created a colossal archive of images that far exceeds hundreds of billions, turning the platform into a kind of collective visual memory of humanity, where everything from everyday moments to historical events is stored. Samuel J. Seymour was the last surviving witness of Abraham Lincoln's assassination. He lived long enough to talk about his experience on a television program in 1956. There is a Twitter account called Big Ben Clock that posts bong 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 every hour. It has been doing this since 2009. Whoever runs that account needs a hobby. This type of automated account is usually programmed to post continuously, and some become popular for their consistency and simplicity. Although we laugh when we are tickled, it is actually the body's defense mechanism that activates in response to panic and anxiety. This phenomenon is related to two different types of tickling, called nismesis and gargalesis, and it is usually more intense in vulnerable areas such as the neck or the armpits. Interestingly, the brain reduces the response when you try to trigger it yourself, which suggests a strong component of surprise and alertness in this reaction. In 1999, a woman named Penny Brown saved the life of a young boy named Kevin Steffen by performing CPR after he was hit in the chest with a baseball bat. However, just 7 years later, he ended up saving her from choking by performing the Heimlich maneuver. That is karma. A man in Saudi Arabia placed a community refrigerator outside his home and asked his neighbors to donate any excess food they had so that those in need could get something to eat without having to beg for it. What a good man. The Goliath tigerfish is the largest of the tigerfish clan and can be found in the Congo River Basin. In fact, it is so large that it is known to eat small crocodiles and has attacked humans on several occasions. Death by giant fish. It has extremely sharp teeth and great strength, making it one of the most feared freshwater predators in Africa. Germany is a graveyard of unexploded bombs from World War II. An average of 2,000 tons of buried munitions are discovered there every year. Be careful when you go out for a casual walk in Germany. Specialized teams are responsible for locating and defusing them, and mass evacuations are sometimes carried out when large devices are found. James Cameron was homeless when he wrote Terminator and sold the rights for just $1 on the condition that he could direct it. Thanks to that agreement, he managed to keep creative control of the story, which allowed him to turn it into an influential film that boosted his career in Hollywood and redefined science fiction cinema at the time. After losing a battle in World War II for taking a tea break, the British Army perfected the art of making tea inside a tank by creating the British Army boiling vessel. It is a built-in kettle for armored vehicles. Believe it or not, it is possible to donate your voice. There is an organization called Vocalid that encourages people to donate their voices so they can recreate synthetic voices that are as unique as fingerprints, intended for people who have speech impairments. Lillian Weber is a woman from Iowa who sews a dress from scratch every day so that a child in need can have something beautiful to wear. She has made more than 840 garments in recent years for an organization called Little Dresses for Africa. An adopted man in Michigan named Steve Flegg searched for his biological mother for 4 years before finally discovering in 2007 that she worked at the same Lowe's store where he worked. Incredibly, neither of them knew. Russian billionaire Vasily Klyukin wanted hospitals to be more welcoming, so he designed one that resembles a luxury yacht called White Sails Hospital, which a Tunisian businessman plans to build in the next 15 years. In both Canada and the United States, the government requires that any income, no matter its origin, be reported for tax purposes. This includes money obtained from illegal activities. The idea is that all earnings must be recorded and taxed, even if those activities remain illegal and subject to penalties. A study conducted in 2011 shows that the brain responds to emotional pain in the same way it does to physical pain. So, when people say that rejection hurts, it is very true. Research using magnetic resonance imaging has shown that similar brain areas are activated, which explains why these experiences can feel so intense. Throughout history, each new technology has reached millions of people faster and faster. Radio took decades to reach a large audience, followed by the telephone and television, while social media accelerated this process dramatically. Platforms like Facebook reached millions of users in just a few years, and the case of Google Plus was even more extreme, reaching a massive number in a matter of weeks. We generally do not think foods are too sweet until our bones stop growing. This is why children tend to like sweets much more than adults. This is because during childhood, the body requires more energy for growth, which influences a greater preference for intense flavors like sweetness. In addition, with age, taste receptors and sensory perception change, making adults more sensitive to excess sugar. According to some experts, it costs only $15 to produce a pair of Beats by Dre headphones. That is a huge profit for Dr. Dre, considering that the cheapest pair sells for $200, while the most expensive is marketed for $700. That is a pretty nice profit margin. The Bob Marley song No Woman No Cry is actually No Woman No Cry in Jamaican. This translates to No Woman Do Not Cry. And the song is about growing up in the ghetto and reassuring a woman that things will get better, so do not cry. No human has won a standard tournament chess game against a high-spec computer since 2005. Because computers have become so powerful, it is likely that it will never happen again. From advances like Deep Blue to modern systems like AlphaZero, chess engines have far surpassed the human level, being able to analyze millions of positions per second and learn strategies that even surprise grandmasters. The Kids Wish Network was named the worst charity in the United States in 2013. According to a report, only 3 cents of every dollar raised actually went toward granting children's wishes, while the rest of the money went directly into the pockets of the organization's operators. Well, there is a special place in hell for those people. Sloths can swim 3 times faster than they can move on land and can hold their breath underwater for up to 40 minutes. This is because they can significantly reduce their heart rate, allowing them to conserve oxygen for longer periods of time. Ducks have accents, seriously. Just like humans, they are influenced by their environment, and this affects their communication, making them quack with regional accents. Studies have shown that they can imitate sounds they hear from a young age, which influences how they communicate within their group. For many years, a Bulgarian man named Dobry Dobrev walked long distances, sometimes more than 12.4 miles a day, to collect donations that he gave entirely to orphanages and churches in need. Known for his extreme generosity, he lived very humbly and donated almost everything he received. He passed away in 2018 at the age of 103. The Sarpa selpa is a fish that, on rare occasions, can cause unusual effects if consumed, especially certain parts of its body. In ancient times, even during the Roman Empire, it became associated with curious experiences. Since Iceland became a republic in 1944, only one case has been recorded in which the police caused the death of a person, which occurred in 2013. This fact reflects the exceptionally low level of violence in the country, where serious crime is rare and police, in most everyday situations, patrol without carrying weapons, relying more on prevention and social trust than on force. Charbonnet-Labat Funeral Home gained attention in 2014 for offering personalized farewells, where some people were remembered in poses that reflected aspects of their lives. This style had already appeared earlier in 2008 in Puerto Rico, and since then, it has sparked interest in different places as a unique form of tribute. Australia literally lost a prime minister, Harold Holt, on December 17, 1967, when he went swimming and simply never came back. Despite one of the largest searches in the country's history, his body was never found, and the case remains one of the most talked about mysteries in Australian politics. William Shakespeare added more than 1,700 words to the English language. Some of those words include new, dazzling, and yes, swagger. Many of them appeared for the first time in his works and later became popular, as he had great creativity for combining terms, turning nouns into verbs, and playing with language, deeply influencing the evolution of modern English. The production of Nutella consumes approximately 25% of the world's hazelnut harvest. At least 10% of that comes from me. Most of these hazelnuts are grown in countries like Turkey, which leads global production, showing the enormous global impact of this popular product. During World War I, there was a Christmas truce in 1914. In the week leading up to Christmas, German and British soldiers had a series of ceasefires where they entered no man's land to mingle and exchange seasonal greetings. That truce is seen as a symbolic moment of peace during one of the most violent events in history. In 2013, a bank employee in Germany fell asleep on the number 2 key of his keyboard, causing him to transfer 222,222,222 euros in a transaction that should have been worth only 62 euros. Interestingly, his coworker was the one who got fired for not catching the error. The pangolin is a mammal that looks like a reptile due to its scales. Its scales are made of keratin, which is the same material as human nails. These structures serve as defense, as it can roll into a nearly impenetrable ball when it feels threatened. In addition, it is a nocturnal and solitary animal that feeds mainly on ants and termites using its long, sticky tongue. Kim Jong-nam is the older brother of Kim Jong-un and was supposed to be the successor of Kim Jong-il. However, he fell out of the line of succession when he tried to use a fake passport to enter Disneyland in Japan. I cannot blame him. It is a place of wonder and magic. The KGB attempted to pressure the then president of Indonesia, Sukarno, using compromising material. However, far from feeling intimidated, he reacted calmly and even with humor, going so far as to ask for more copies of the material to share in his country. An artist from Iowa named Patrick Acton built a full model of Hogwarts with 602,000 matchsticks, held together by nearly 60 liters of wood glue. The piece took him several years of meticulous work and became one of his most complex creations, standing out for its level of architectural detail. The first three-dimensional feature film was called The Power of Love and premiered in 1922 in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, the three-dimensional version of the film is presumed lost, and the two-dimensional version was later shown under the name Forbidden Lover. Despite their size difference, praying mantises can easily catch and eat hummingbirds. That is terrifying. They use their fast, spiny front legs to grab their prey mid-flight, and although it is not common, this behavior has been documented on several occasions in different regions. A survey conducted in 2011 shows that the American pizza industry serves about 0.39 square miles of pizza per day. This figure reflects the enormous consumption in the country, where millions of pizzas are prepared daily and national chains dominate a large part of the market. In addition, pizza consumption is so ingrained that there is even a national day dedicated to celebrating it every year. The Marvel Avengers movie caused shawarma sales to skyrocket across the United States in 2012, purely because of an extra scene where Thor, Captain America, Bruce Banner, and the rest of the heroic crew casually enjoy shawarma after saving the world. In 1950, almost the entire Soviet hockey team died in a plane crash. The team's manager was Vasily Stalin, the son of Joseph Stalin. He feared his father's reaction to the accident and immediately recruited a whole new team. Surprisingly, his father never noticed the difference. In Norway, the use of cash has declined to minimal levels, with only a small fraction of transactions being made with physical money. Although it was once thought that the country could become completely cashless by 2020, in practice, this did not fully happen. However, Norway remains one of the most advanced places in the world for digital payments, where cards and mobile apps almost completely dominate everyday life. The ugliest animal in the world is the blobfish, a deep-sea fish that can live between 1,968 and 3,937 feet underwater. This is due to its lack of flesh and muscle structure, and it only becomes gelatinous when it is out of the water. In 2013, Volkswagen introduced the innovative Volkswagen XL1 model, designed to achieve extremely low fuel consumption. Its lightweight carbon fiber structure and futuristic aerodynamic design allowed it to reach remarkable efficiency figures. However, its production was very limited, making it a rare and highly exclusive piece within the automotive world. Red pandas use their long, bushy tails to maintain balance when they are in trees. Their tails are also used to cover themselves and stay warm in the winter. In addition, they wrap them around their bodies while sleeping to conserve heat in the cold mountain climates where they live, and they also use them as extra support when moving along narrow branches. Crows are one of the smartest animals on Earth. In fact, they try to hide their food from each other, but they only sometimes succeed because they are all very intelligent. Studies have shown that they can plan for the future, recognize human faces, and even deceive other crows by pretending to hide food in one place while actually storing it in another, showing surprisingly complex behaviors. In 2014, an entrepreneur named Mochi Sung developed facial recognition software for cats. It is intended to help cats maintain their ideal weight by recognizing their faces and tracking their food intake. Nobody likes a fat kitty. In 2010, in Stockholm, Sweden, a temporary campaign called the Speed Camera Lottery was implemented, where good drivers could win money from the fines of other drivers who were speeding. In the movie The Matrix, Neo's passport expires on September 11, 2001. That is scary. This detail has caught the attention of many fans over time, as it coincides with a date that would later become tragically significant in real history, although it is simply a coincidence within the film's prop design. By definition, if you commit any crime at sea, you are considered a pirate. However, In modern legal terms, piracy involves specific acts such as robbery or violence in international waters, so not all maritime crimes fall into that category under international law. Ninjas did not actually wear black. According to museums dedicated to ninjas in Japan, the best color to wear at night was actually dark navy blue. This is because pure black stands out more under low light, while darker tones like blue or gray blend better with natural shadows, making stealth easier during their missions. Most of the time, the ice cream you see in television commercials and other advertisements is actually mashed potatoes. This is because regular ice cream would not withstand the heat of the studio lights during filming. Greek statues are not actually white as we once thought. Ultraviolet light has revealed that they were originally painted in bright colors, but after thousands of years, the paint wore away to show the statues as we know them today. When he was just 13 years old, Ashton Kutcher went through a very difficult moment when he saw his brother suffering from a heart condition. In the middle of that situation, he even thought about making a great sacrifice to help him, although over time he was able to move forward together with his family. His brother eventually received the medical support he needed, and both have continued with their lives. Greenland allows its inmates great freedoms as part of its open prison system, designed to rehabilitate prisoners. Inmates are allowed to leave the facilities during the day to work or study, and even go hunting with rifles. Believe it or not, some of them even have the key to their own cell. The lowest grade of meat is called canner, and comes from very old cows with little fat in their tough meat. It is used both in dog food and in school lunches. This type of meat is usually used in processed products, where the texture is modified through industrial methods to make it more consumable. There is a phenomenon called cellular memory. It occurs when organ transplant recipients experience the same thoughts and desires as their organ donors. The word electrocute comes from the combination of electro and execute, which means death by electric shock. Originally, the term was used strictly to describe a death caused by electricity, although over time, its use has expanded colloquially to any electric shock, even when it is not fatal. If you multiply 111,111,111 by 111,111,111, you get the magical mathematical result of 12,345,687,654,321. Incredible. Norway offers incredible incentives for people who own electric cars, such as free parking, free charging, and the use of bus lanes. Thanks to these policies, the adoption of electric vehicles grew rapidly to become one of the highest in the world. Over time, the success became so great that some of these advantages began to be limited or adjusted to balance infrastructure use and maintain system sustainability. Small pseudoscorpions, which usually measure from 0.08 to 0.31 inches long, are often found in rooms with dusty books. They actually protect books by feeding on book lice and dust mites. And now, everyone is wondering when was the last time they dusted. There is an island in Alaska that reflects in such a way that it looks like it is floating in the air. Mother Nature is a crazy scientist. This visual effect occurs when the water is completely calm and acts like a perfect mirror, creating an optical illusion known as a superior mirage. This phenomenon is more common in cold regions like Alaska, where temperature differences between the air and the water can distort light and produce scenes that look out of this world. In the 1930s, an Argentine engineer named Juan Baigorri Velad created a machine to make it rain, reportedly causing rain in several places at once successfully, and then disappeared without a trace. His demonstrations attracted great attention in the press at the time, although no solid scientific evidence was ever presented to confirm the actual functioning of the device. The phrase, "happy wife, happy life," is actually quite accurate. A study conducted in 2014 shows that men who are unhappily married can still be happy with their lives overall if their wives are satisfied with their marriages. Meet Amu Haji, an Iranian hermit whose life defied all norms. He went more than 6 decades without bathing because he believed that cleanliness would make him sick, living in extreme conditions and developing unusual habits such as smoking dried animal dung. His story not only amazed the world, but also sparked curiosity about how the human body can adapt to completely unconventional lifestyles. He passed away in 2022 at the age of 94. President Andrew Jackson managed to pay off the entire national debt of the United States in 1835. It was the only time in history that the country was completely debt-free, and it lasted exactly 1 year. How things have changed. A teenager from the United Kingdom named Rory McGuinness secretly painted a 59-foot penis on the roof of his house and was discovered more than a year later when his parents looked up their home on Google Earth. The first American woman to become a self-made millionaire was a woman named Sarah Breedlove, also known as Madam C.J. Walker. She made her fortune by developing a tonic that could make hair grow faster. This is Tyson, a tiny dog considered one of the smallest in the United Kingdom. When he was a puppy, he could practically fit in the palm of a hand, with an incredibly small size that made him look almost like a toy. His small body and delicate appearance made him a true sensation. In January 2013, the finance minister of Zimbabwe announced that his country had only $217 left in its bank account. This situation reflected years of economic crisis and hyperinflation that had forced the country to abandon its own currency and adopt foreign currencies such as the United States dollar. Since then, Zimbabwe has attempted to restructure its financial system, although it has continued to face economic difficulties and liquidity problems at different times. The richest woman in Germany, Susanna Klatten, met her husband while doing an internship for BMW under a false name in the 1980s. He had no idea who she really was until she was sure about the relationship and revealed herself. Have you ever noticed that old books have a distinct smell? Well, that is because the organic compounds in paper break down over time and release chemicals that smell like vanilla, almonds, and grass. In September 1940, two planes collided over Brocklesby, Australia, and became locked together. The engines of the top plane stopped working, but those of the bottom plane kept running, so the pilot of that plane safely landed both aircraft and all 4 crew members survived. The role of Captain Jack Sparrow was originally offered to Jim Carrey, but he turned it down for the role in Bruce Almighty. Eventually, the character was played by Johnny Depp, whose eccentric performance redefined the role and made it one of the most iconic pirates in modern cinema. An ornithologist named George Archibald managed to save the whooping crane species from extinction by spending 37 years acting as the mate of a female crane that believed he was human. He eventually succeeded in getting her to mate with a real bird, and the rest is history. Sandwiches taste better when someone else makes them. Seriously. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman explains that this is because when we make our own sandwiches, we anticipate their taste and therefore consume them mentally beforehand, which makes us feel less hungry afterward. Madagascar is home to some of the most exotic organisms on the planet. Around 90% of all plant and animal species found in Madagascar are endemic, which means they are exclusive to a specific geographic location. There is a hotel at the top of Mount Foronon-Buins in the Julian Alps that accommodates only 9 people. Guests can stay there for free as long as they are willing to hike 8,300 feet to get there. Yeah, that does not seem worth it to me. Huracan was known as the Mayan god of wind and storms. His name means one leg in the Mayan language, and the word hurricane was derived from his name. He appears in texts such as the Popol Vuh, where he is associated with creation and destruction, representing the unpredictable force of nature. The Hawaiian island of Niihau is also known as the Forbidden Island. Elizabeth Sinclair bought it in 1864, and now her descendants, the Robinson family, own it. The island is completely off-limits to everyone except the owners, their relatives, and invited guests. I do not know why you would invite a guest to this island. It is creepy. A recent study found that a nap of 45 to 60 minutes during the day could improve learning and memory up to 5 times. Researchers say that a short nap at the office or at school is enough to significantly improve learning success. You can rent the entire country of Liechtenstein for $70,000 a night. In fact, Snoop Dogg once tried to do that in 2011 for a video shoot, but the country said no, mainly because he did not give them enough advance notice. Despite being much smaller in size, the wolverine can successfully attack much larger animals, including caribou and moose. This animal is known for its disproportionate strength, its aggressiveness, and its ability to travel long distances in search of food, which allows it to take on prey that far exceeds its size. Billboards have been banned in Vermont since 1968 to preserve the natural beauty of the state. This law also helped promote tourism and maintain cleaner visual landscapes, making it one of the few places in the United States with such strict regulation. Architects in Australia designed a housing concept called Cliff House. The concept shows a five-story home hanging from a cliff on the southwest coast of Australia with incredible views of the Indian Ocean. That is not something I would ever live in, because heights terrify me. An oil sheik from Abu Dhabi named Hamad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan carved his name into the desert with letters that are more than 3,280 feet tall. I guess if you have unlimited money, it is better to have a little fun with it. It is actually possible to find traces of DNA on cigarette butts. An artist named Heather Dewey Hagborg used cigarette butts and old chewing gum she found on the streets to create three-dimensional portraits of the people whose DNA was found on those objects. Well, that is one more reason not to litter. How creepy. In 2014, scientists at MIT designed a device to help blind people read without Braille. It is called Finger Reader, and users can use it to scan a line of text with their finger and receive an audio response of the words. A moment is actually a medieval unit of time equivalent to 90 seconds. There are 40 moments in an hour. This term comes from the Latin momentum and was used in religious and scientific texts of the time to divide time more precisely before modern standardization. After Hurricane Katrina, the Emir of Qatar donated $100 million to help rebuild homes, hospitals, and schools. He visited the area a few years after the disaster to check on its progress. Castoreum is an anal secretion that beavers use to mark their territory. It smells like vanilla and has been used in foods and perfumes. It is often labeled as natural flavoring. So the next time your girlfriend smells like vanilla, she actually smells like beaver butt. When Thor: The Dark World was released, a movie theater in Shanghai accidentally used a fan-made image as the official movie poster. How awkward. This type of mistake usually happens due to confusion in the distribution of promotional material, especially when unofficial images circulate on the internet. Fennec foxes mate for life. Male foxes become especially aggressive with each other when mating season approaches to protect their partners. In addition, these pairs usually share the care of their young, with the male responsible for bringing food while the female stays in the burrow, reinforcing the bond and increasing the chances of survival of the litter in desert environments. This is what a honeypot ant looks like. These ants gorge themselves so that other ants can extract nutrients from them. It is a bit unsettling, but useful. They act as living storage units within the nest, storing sugary liquids in their swollen abdomens to feed the colony in times of scarcity. Guide dogs are capable of going against their owner's instructions when they believe the command is not safe. This is called intelligent disobedience. This behavior is essential for protecting people, as the animal prioritizes safety even above direct obedience. Not only do radar detectors exist, but there are also radar detector detectors and even detectors of radar detector detectors. These devices were developed in response to traffic regulations and police strategies, creating a kind of technological arms race between drivers and authorities to evade or identify surveillance systems. A wild pig in Australia once stole 18 beers from some campers, got drunk, and then fought a cow. The incident occurred at a remote campsite, and the animal, after consuming the drinks, showed erratic behavior before confronting nearby livestock. A study in 2013 shows that bottlenose dolphins have the longest memories in the animal kingdom. In fact, they can remember the whistles of other dolphins they have lived with even after 20 years of separation. Anopheles is a genus of mosquito that means useless in Greek, which makes a lot of sense because, seriously, what are mosquitoes even for other than driving me crazy? However, some species of this genus are known for transmitting diseases such as malaria, making them one of the most dangerous animals for humans. Tires for the Bugatti Veyron cost $42,000 per set and only last 15 minutes at top speed. That is not a good investment. They are designed to withstand extreme speeds of more than 248 miles per hour, so they wear out quickly under those conditions, although in normal use, they can last much longer. There is a town in Arizona called Nothing, and it is a ghost town, so there is literally nothing there. At one point, it had a small population and some basic services, but over time it was abandoned until it became practically deserted, which makes its name even more fitting. The Tesla Model S not only achieved top safety ratings, but also helped redefine how modern cars are designed. Thanks to its low center of gravity from the batteries and its reinforced structure, it offers exceptional protection in collisions. The Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia is the largest salt flat in the world, with 4,086 square miles, and becomes the largest mirror in the world when it rains. It is so beautiful that it has been called the border between the sky and the earth. Studies show that just 1 week of outdoor camping with only natural light is enough to reset the body's biological clock to normal sleep rhythms. In other words, if you have trouble falling asleep, just go camping. Due to their small brains, koalas are unable to perform complex tasks that are unfamiliar to them, such as eating leaves from a flat surface. In addition, their diet is based almost exclusively on eucalyptus leaves, which are toxic and not very nutritious, so they sleep between 18 and 20 hours a day to conserve energy and process them. Pineapples were considered a status symbol in the 18th century. They were seen as a symbol of wealth and power, and in England, people could rent one for a night to show off to guests at parties. When Teddy Roosevelt was a child, he had debilitating asthma, except that doctors did not understand the condition at the time and told him to smoke cigars and drink coffee and whiskey. As expected, none of these remedies cured his condition. There is an environmentally friendly spray coating for pavements called Star Path that makes the surface glow in the dark. Not only that, but it even adjusts to the level of natural light available. The darker it is, the brighter it glows. To protect the city's water, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power purchased 80 million hollow black balls to cover its reservoirs. This was done to prevent sunlight from triggering dangerous chemical reactions. That is why I prefer bottled water. This is a house carved entirely into rock. It was created by a hermit named Daniel Zistel in the late 1400s. These structures were often used as isolated shelters for religious life, and many of them are still preserved in regions of Central Europe as unique examples of rock-cut architecture. A man in New York named Robert Samuel is a professional line stander who earns up to $1,000 a week simply by waiting in line for other people. So the next time you want that new iPhone or tickets to a show, you know who to call. Potatoes absorb and reflect radio wave signals in the same way human bodies do. Because of this, engineers have used them in the past to test and improve Wi-Fi signals on airplanes. Useful and delicious. Interestingly, blood has properties similar to eggs in cooking and can be used as a viable substitute for baking and making ice cream. Anyone want red velvet cake? This is due to its protein content, which can coagulate and provide structure, although its use is uncommon in modern cooking. Sugar gliders are such social creatures that, if deprived of social interaction, they can become depressed and die. So make sure to love your gliders. They are sweet. In the wild, they live in groups and communicate through sounds and scents, forming very strong bonds that are essential to their well-being. A group called the Mineko Club in Japan created zoo jeans to raise money for the World Wildlife Fund and the local Kamine Zoo in the city of Hitachi. Lions, tigers, and bears design the jeans by tearing them, creating a distressed style. The jeans are then auctioned for charitable purposes. There is a charity called Food for the Poor that gives more than 95% of its income to the poor. Ironically, the name of its chief executive is Robin Mahfood. Makes sense. Like my food. Mahfood. The Boeing factory in Everett, just north of Seattle, is so massive that rain clouds began to form inside the facility until they were eventually forced to install a state-of-the-art air circulation system. Roger Frisch, a concert violinist, was awake when he underwent brain surgery to eliminate his tremors. His surgeons had a private concert during the operation while Frisch played the violin as the doctors worked on his brain. There is a popular tourist destination in Chongqing, China, where part of the pavement is dedicated to cell phone users who are too busy looking at their screens to bother watching where they are going. Right next to it, another section of the road completely prohibits cell phone use. I feel like we need this in North America. In 1898, the company Bayer introduced diacetylmorphine as a medication that was promoted to relieve cough and as an alternative to morphine. Over time, its highly addictive effects were discovered, and it stopped being used for that purpose. Today, this substance is known as heroin. Christopher Robin Milne, the son of the author of Winnie the Pooh, A. Milne, and the person on whom the character Christopher Robin was based, actually hated the books his father wrote and believed that it was a way his father exploited his childhood. Jonathan is a giant tortoise that lives on the island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic Ocean, believed to have been born in 1832 and still alive to this day. He is considered one of the longest living land animals known and has witnessed enormous historical changes over nearly 2 centuries. There is an English law called right to light that allows owners of long-standing buildings that have received natural light for at least 20 years to prohibit any construction that blocks their windows and deprives them of that light. Peacock flounders are masters of camouflage and can match the color of a chessboard if placed on one. This phenomenon is due to special cells called chromatophores that allow them to quickly change color and pattern to adapt to their environment, helping them avoid predators and surprise their prey.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.